Hello everyone, so today we're going to talk about advertisement message strategies, and basically this is the type of strategies you can have when creating an advertisement. Now this does not mean it's a comprehensive list. I'm not going to give all the different options, but I'm going to focus on the three main categories that we have and basically what they are and how they are used nowadays, along with a whole bunch of examples. The examples I'm going to give are mostly examples that are on printed ads, but you can always find a lot of advertisement on YouTube related to each one of those categories. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what we call the cognitive strategy. Cognitive comes from means basically to think or to use reason. Okay, and that's exactly what this type of advertisement do. So they present a rational argument or pieces of information to consumers, and basically they try to invoke the reasons why their product might be the best. For example, this message typically describes attributes or benefits that the consumer can get when they actually buy the product. Okay, for example, the product is the best, or is the safest, or is best because of this or that. Okay, so they not so much connecting you on emotions, but connecting with you on reason. Okay, so there's different types of cognitive strategies here that we can divide it. So we're going to have genetic ones, preemptive ones, unique selling propositions, hyperboles, and comparative strategies. Okay. So, for example, as a type of cognitive message, I put this beautiful advertisement here about people. This one is against violence, and it's a beautiful advertisement because it really, yes, in a way connects with you emotionally, but at the same time, it makes you think. All right, and that's exactly the objective of this type of advertisement. So let's dig into the first, the genetic cognitive message. Genetic cognitive messages, basically they directly promote a product attribute or benefit without any claim of superiority. In other words, they don't say we are the best, rather they say that, okay, this is what we do, and this is why it's a good thing. Okay, in this case I'm giving here the example about Community Trust Bank, where basically they created this advertisement saying that you can deposit checks anywhere and anytime, on the go or from your office, and so on. So here they're not saying they're the best. They're not saying that, oh, we're better than all the other banks. No, but rather they're just displaying what is the attributes of their product. And that's why we classify this type of message as a genetic one. The second strategy we have here is called the preemptive cognitive message. Basically, here we have a claim of superiority based on an attribute or on a benefit, and here we're clearly stating that the brand is better than the competition because of this and this reason. Still, we're still using reason here. It's just now we're clearly stating that we are better than the competition. So here it's a little bit to prevent the competition from making the same claim. So the goal here is to actually be the first one to say it in order to avoid the competition from calling it. So we call it the first mover's advantage. Okay, so here, for example, I give the example of a toothpaste brand that is very famous called the Crest toothpaste, and they were the first ones to say that they were the cavity fighters. And in a way, that message stuck with their brand for many years. Nowadays, not so much, but for many years it maintained that. Why? Because they were the first ones to claim that, and therefore other brands could not come after and have the same message as they did. All right, so for example, it would be very weird another brand now coming in and saying we have all the products from A to Z. Okay, because that is already the message that Amazon, for example, has. The next type of advertisement strategy we call it the unique selling proposition cognitive message. So the USP. So this is when you make a claim. There is, like I say on the slide, explicit, testable, okay, that your product is unique or superior, and this can be supported in some way. In other words, here on the previous one it's a claim, but on this one is a proven claim. In other words, you have proof or you have arguments that indeed, facts that indeed what you say makes your product better or unique. Okay, so here, this is very normal when you have something, for example, associated with sometimes with location or with characteristic of your product that really make it unique. For example, on the advertisement here, this is an advertisement for a hospital, and it says you don't have to leave town for the best smaller size hospital around. So in other words, this is proving here their unique selling proposition is their quality, yes, but at the same time here is the location. They're focusing the fact that they are easily accessible. The next one we have is the hyperbole cognitive message. So an hyperbole means an exaggeration of reality to the point that typically is not realistic anymore. Okay, so here we're talking about an untested claim. You cannot prove certain things. Okay, so this does not require substantiation or proof or facts that indeed what you're saying is the reality, but it's a very popular type of advertisement strategy that we use. For example, here I give an advertisement for a brand called Carnes, and they say grand opening, home of Pennsylvania's best meat department. So how it's not like there's an association going around and giving certificates for the best meat departments in the world, therefore it's impossible to substantiate this claim. It's impossible to prove that they are indeed the best. But that's what an hyperbole is. So a lot of times, for example, you see a pizza place saying best pizza in the world. It's like, I never seen a world pizza competition, for example, where they give away certificates to the best pizza in the world. So this one would be an hyperbole. But attention, if you have a way to substantiate that claim that you have, then it's not an hyperbole anymore. It's a unique selling proposition. For example, in Paris, there's many boulangeries, many bakeries that have a prize. The prize comes from a competition that every year happens, and basically the best baguette in Paris, the one that wins that competition, is going to be supplying the prime minister for the next year in terms of bread every day. So this is a great honor for many bakeries, and therefore this is something that a lot of times when they win, they display that price. But this is not an hyperbole anymore, because it's not an exaggerating set best baguette of 2015, for example. You can say that because in a way you have proof behind it, so it's not an exaggeration anymore. The next one there we have is the comparative cognitive message. Now this one we see it a lot, but attention, in some countries this type of message can be illegal. All right, and this is a message, for example, I give an advertisement here of Burger King, where they compare their Whopper with their Big Mac from McDonald's. And this type of advertisement actually in Europe is illegal, because you cannot directly attack another brand in an advertisement. So comparisons can be direct or indirect. Okay, the example I give here is a direct comparison, but there is indirect comparison too. For example, a lot of times when you see commercials for detergent, they show their brand of detergent being used, and then they call it the most sold brand, but they never reveal the name. So this would be an indirect comparison. Comparisons can be real or can be against a fictitious comparison, like a competitor, like I just mentioned, the indirect comparison in the previous example. Now there's advantages here and there's disadvantages, like everything. In terms of advantages, what we have is your brand awareness is indeed increased, because a lot of times you are leeching on more known brands, and your message awareness also can increase if indeed it proves that your product, if you show that your product is better than the comparative product you're using. But on the negative side is that a lot of times we don't believe these type of commercials, because obviously you're going to compare yourself to something that you're worse than, but that does not necessarily mean that you are better. Okay, so does not have as much trust, and also there is a negative attitude towards these type of commercials when they're not done right, because a lot of times this type of commercials can be seen as an attack and actually makes the other brand even better rather than you. So here, like I said, we have a negative comparative, we might have negative comparative ads, which sometimes is not good indeed, especially if you are on the negative side of the comparison. And we can also have spontaneous state transfers. In other words, people might start associating the characteristic of your product that you are trying to sell, and they might start associating with the product you are actually comparing it to. So actually you're doing good advertisement for the other brand in a way. So what is the best advice I can tell you when you do a comparative cognitive message? Choose your comparisons carefully. All right, choose your comparisons carefully, and be very careful with what is the brand you're going to compare with, because you might start a fight that you cannot win, for example. All right, so The next big category of messages we have is called we cover now the cognitive messages. Now we're going to go into the affective message. Affective message comes from the word affection, and therefore it has to deal with emotions. We subdivide this one into two main categories: resonance and emotional. Okay, affective messages, they are messages that invoke feelings or emotions, and they attempt to enhance your likability to the brand. In other words, they tend to connect with you in a more personal level. I love this example that I put on the slide from I never know how to say the name of this brand, Stadler. Okay, I hope I said it right. But I really love it. They're advertised for the highlight, and it says never get lost. And I love it because so many times I'm reading a book and I don't have an highlighter, so I know exactly how that feels. And therefore, this is a great advertisement because it connects with a lot of people, especially students and professors. Connects a lot of people here because you always feel like a highlighter is something that you always carry with you. So let's go to the first subcategory. Resonance affective messages. The resonance here, it's about creating a resonance with the brand. So the connecting a brand with the consumer experiences in order to develop a stronger tie between the product and the consumer. Okay, so here two key characteristics. Indeed, make sure that you connect with the experience of your consumer, and second, you need to create what we call comfort marketing that makes people in a way feel good. Right, I love this advertisement here for South Welton, to promote tourism, both business and personal, in the location. And just the way it says, make connections, it's perfect because indeed many business travels also travel for a bit of leisure. So therefore, this making connection advertisement really shows that we're trying to connect with what the consumer typically does on a trip. The next one we have is emotional affective message. So here they elicit powerful feelings that help lead to product recall and choice. So in other words, here is really bringing deep down and strong emotions that you have. Not to the point of making you cry, well, sometimes yes, but typically emotions that we associate with very strong feelings. And actually I'm going to have another video about specifically that, about what we call traits on a message. So here emotions, the advantage is emotions can lead to recall and to choice. Okay, this works both for B2B markets, so business to business, and for business to consumer. And the main advantage indeed is that it can lead to positive feelings. Okay, and these positive feelings will be associated with the brand itself. I love this advertisement for the cream cheese brand, Philadelphia, and it says, if you could hold on to any moment in time, which? And here it is, you know, a father obviously looking at the son and really enjoying the moment, and the kid is eating that cream cheese with a bagel. Not maybe the healthiest breakfast for a kid, but that's not the point here. The point is to show that there is a strong emotion here, and now you're associating that strong emotion with the brand. All right. So next one we have is what we call conative messages. Conative messages are associated with actions. They try to make you do something. That's why I put that little to-do symbol there. So here's what it happens. They try to encourage the customer to create an action. They support it with a promotional effort, and they work a lot on impulsive buys as well. So we see this a lot if you go to do the groceries, for example. You see this a lot next to the checkout counter. There's always gum and things that are easy to buy, and they try to point out a lot of times, oh, there's this promotion, grab it now and take it, because the point is to make the action. So here, for example, we have a good example, which is vouchers. Vouchers or promotions of a product. Here we have the promotion for buying a new lawnmower, for example, starting at a low prices, and it shows that you have $50 appreciation if you present this card. So in other words, it's saying like, use this card, take action now, get the product. So these type of messages work very well if we're dealing with like promotions that are very limited time, or if you're dealing with purchases that are more impulsive, typically more cheaper products as well. So how does this all link now? We spoke about the three main the three main strategies of advertisement we have. How does this link with the process that the consumer goes through when are trying to decide to buy a product? So here we have this chart that basically says that the steps that a consumer will go in terms of the moment he becomes aware of a product to the moment that he actually purchases. So let me explain first the part on the right. The part on the right says awareness. Awareness is the first stage of purchasing, and basically it says that you become aware of the product, or you become aware of the need that you have for a specific type of product. Knowledge, on the other hand, is about when you start to understand the brand, the product, and you start to really, it's a step further from being aware, because here you start to understand what are the characteristics that you're looking for, or the characteristics of each one of the brands that can satisfy your need. Liking comes after. Liking is basically you start to take a preference to a specific brand. This does not need to be rational like we saw. It could be emotional or cognitive or action or just impulsive. But liking comes from the fact that you feel now a deeper connection with a specific brand. Preference comes typically, so you start to like different brands, but preference is when you start to see that there is one brand that for you really stands out from all the others, and therefore it's the one that so far you like the most. Conviction is when you are sure that indeed that is the brand that you must choose, okay, and this comes after preference. And finally it leads to the very last step, which is the purchase, okay. So cognitive messages, they work mostly, now this is not like they only work on these two stages, no, it's just most of the times they work on the awareness and on the knowledge steps. Or while affective strategies, because they're trying to connect more with your emotions, obviously they link more to the liking, preference, and conviction phases. So up to this point, the two of them, the cognitive strategies and the affective strategies, if you notice, they don't really push you to make a purchase. They don't really tell you must buy our product now. Rather, what they try to do is to work on the steps that come before the purchase. The only one that clearly tells you to make the purchase is the conative type of strategies, and because those indeed the objective is to make to in a way to force you or to impulse you to purchase the product for a variety of reasons. And this is how these types of messages link to how the consumer feels on the field when they are buying a new product. So to summarize, we saw that we have three different categories of message strategies, sorry. The first one is the cognitive, the second one is the affective, and the third one was the conative. Don't forget that the cognitive strategies can be subdivided into 5 different categories: genetic, preemptive, unique selling proposition, hyperbole, or comparative. While the affective message can be divided into 2 categories: the resonance and the emotional category. And finally, conative is just 1 category. All right. With that, we also saw how each one of them link to different stages of the buying process and how it affects the consumer in terms of perception. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions.